The 6 alien students gathered nervously in the departure hall of the Galactic Academy of Xenobiology. They had been selected from thousands of applicants for what many considered the most dangerous field research opportunity in the galaxy, a visit to Earth. "I still cannot believe we are going to a death world," whispered Krelax, a tall, willowy being whose crystalline skin sparkled under the blue lights of the station. His home planet had 1/5 the gravity of Earth, and his delicate frame reflected this evolutionary path. "That is precisely why this research will be groundbreaking," replied Vorna. The reptilian student's scales shifted color slightly with her excitement. Her desert homeworld had prepared her somewhat better for harsh conditions, but even she felt apprehension about what awaited them. Professor Zixtal floated toward the group, his tentacles gently pulsing with bioluminescence. The renowned xenobiologist had spent decades studying life on extreme worlds, though even he had only visited Earth once. "Students, your transport will depart in 30 minutes. This assignment is not merely academic. Your observations will help update our understanding of how sentient life evolved on a planet that by all galactic standards should not have produced an advanced civilization." Meepo, the smallest of the group, raised a webbed hand. The amphibious student had a reputation for asking the most insightful questions. "Professor, what makes humans different from other Deathworld species? The galaxy has many dangerous planets, yet only Earth has joined the Federation." The professor's tentacles darkened thoughtfully. "That, Meepo, is exactly what you are going to discover. Humans do not merely survive their environment. They seem to thrive because of it, not despite it. This contradicts everything we understand about evolutionary pressures." Trazik's environmental suit hummed as the gaseous entity inside adjusted their density. "I have studied their media transmissions. They deliberately seek danger for recreation. It makes no logical sense." "Logic and humans rarely align," said Duron, the silicon-based student, whose heavy footsteps left small cracks in the floor. "Their bodies are mostly water, yet they have spread to every corner of their world, adapting to conditions that would kill most species." Phyla, the insectoid student, clicked her mandibles in what the others recognized as laughter. Being part of a hive mind, she understood collective behavior better than most. Perhaps that is their strength. They adapt rather than evolve. They change their environment instead of waiting for their bodies to change. Professor Zixtal gestured toward the viewing window where their transport ship waited. "You will be met by 2 human guides from their diplomatic corps, Olivia Wright and Daniel Garcia. They specialize in interspecies cultural exchange and have been briefed on your biological needs." The professor handed each student a personal shield generator. "These are programmed specifically for Earth's conditions. They will protect you from the most immediate dangers, the oxygen levels, radiation from their sun, and gravity adjustments for those who need them." Krelax activated his shield immediately, sighing in relief as the crushing pressure around him eased slightly. "Will the humans wear shields too?" The professor made a sound that translated as amusement. "Humans need no shields on their homeworld. Remember that what you perceive as hostile, they experience as perfectly normal. This difference in perspective is central to your research." A soft chime indicated their transport was ready for boarding. The students gathered their equipment and research tools. "One final note," said the professor. "Humans are classified as predators, but do not let this frighten you. They are protective of visitors and take great pride in their hospitality. However, they sometimes forget their own strength. If you feel endangered at any point, your emergency transponders will bring you back to the ship." The journey to Earth took 3 standard days. During this time, the students reviewed everything the Academy knew about humans and their planet. They watched recordings of Earth's violent weather patterns, its tectonic instability, and the bewildering variety of life forms that humans casually lived alongside. "Look at this," said Meepo, displaying a video of humans swimming in an ocean. "They voluntarily immerse themselves in water filled with other predators." "And this," added Vorna, showing images of humans climbing sheer rock faces with minimal equipment. "They call this entertainment." When the ship entered Earth orbit, all 6 students crowded around the viewing ports. The blue planet below seemed deceptively peaceful from a distance. It looked so Ordinary, said Duron. The most dangerous things often do, replied Phyla. Their descent to the North American Earth Embassy was smooth, though several students increased their shield strength as the atmosphere thickened around the ship. Earth's gravity made Krelax noticeably uncomfortable, while Trazic's suit worked overtime to maintain proper pressure balance. The landing pad was surrounded by tall green plants that the database identified as trees. Two humans waited beside a transport vehicle, smiling and waving as the ship's doors opened. "Welcome to Earth," said the female human, stepping forward. Her skin was brown, her hair tied back, and she wore the blue uniform of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. "I'm Olivia Wright. This is my colleague, Daniel Garcia." The male human nodded. He had lighter skin and short, dark hair. "We're honored to host the first student delegation from the Academy. Your living quarters have been prepared according to the specifications we received." Krelax was the first to exit the ship, moving cautiously as his shield struggled against Earth's gravity. Even with technological assistance, he felt heavy, his crystalline frame straining with each step. "Can you increase your shield strength?" asked Daniel, noticing the alien's difficulty. "It is already at maximum," replied Krelax. "Your world is very solid." Daniel smiled sympathetically. "You'll adapt faster than you expect. The human body is remarkably good at adjusting to new conditions, and your physiology has many similar adaptation mechanisms." As the other students emerged, each had their own immediate reaction to Earth. Vorna found the humidity uncomfortable on her scales. Trazic's suit made constant adjustment noises. Meepo seemed the most comfortable, his amphibious nature better suited to Earth's conditions than the others. "Is that water falling from the sky?" asked Duron suddenly, pointing to where droplets had begun to hit the landing pad. "Just a light rain," said Olivia, opening what she called an umbrella to shield the silicon-based student. "Nothing to worry about." "Water randomly falls from your atmosphere?" asked Phyla, her compound eyes reflecting the raindrops. "How do you predict when it will happen?" "We have weather forecasting technology," explained Daniel, "though it's not always accurate. Earth likes to surprise us sometimes." The students exchanged glances. A planet with unpredictable weather patterns was yet another sign of why Earth was classified as dangerous. "Come inside," said Olivia, gesturing toward the embassy building. "We'll begin orientation after you've had time to adjust your environmental settings. Tomorrow we'll take you on your first excursion to a nature reserve." As they moved toward the building, a loud rumbling sound made all 6 students freeze in alarm. "What was that?" asked Krelax, his crystalline form vibrating with fear. Daniel looked up and smiled. "Just thunder. A storm is coming. You're going to see why Earth's weather makes our planet so interesting." The students followed their human guides inside, each wondering what they had gotten themselves into by volunteering for this assignment. The next morning, the 6 alien students gathered in the embassy's common room. Each had spent the night in specially designed quarters that mimicked their home environments as closely as possible. Despite these accommodations, none of them had slept well. Earth's gravity, sounds, and even the faint smell of oxygen in the air kept them on edge. Olivia entered the room carrying what the humans called coffee. The dark liquid steamed as she set down her cup. "Is that a dangerous substance?" asked Meepo, watching with scientific curiosity. Olivia laughed. "Some might say so. It's a stimulant many humans use to start their day. It contains caffeine, which helps us stay alert." "You need chemicals to stay alert?" Vorna's scales shifted to a pattern that indicated confusion. "Is that because your planet is so dangerous that you must always be ready to run?" Daniel walked in, also holding a cup. "Not exactly, though our ancestors probably developed good alertness for survival reasons. Today we just have busy schedules." He placed a large screen on the wall and brought up a map. "Today's excursion will be to the nature reserve. We'll start easy, just a simple walk through a controlled environment." The map showed green areas, blue water, and brown paths. To the alien students, even this controlled environment looked full of unknown variables. "What dangers should we prepare for?" asked Duron, the heavy silicon being who feared Earth's water the most. "It's perfectly safe," said Daniel. The paths are maintained and dangerous wildlife is kept away from visitor areas. Dangerous wildlife? Repeated Krelax nervously. Like what? Olivia brought up images of what she called bears, mountain lions, and venomous snakes. The students stared in horror at creatures that humans apparently shared their planet with willingly. These won't be near us today, Olivia assured them. But it's good to know what to avoid if you ever venture into less controlled areas. Phyla's compound eyes reflected the images. Humans live alongside predators that could kill them, and they consider this normal? We evolved together, explained Daniel. Earth's life forms reached a kind of balance over millions of years. Humans just happened to be the ones who developed technology first. The transport to the nature reserve took 30 minutes. Through the windows, the students observed human settlements, tall buildings in some areas, small structures in others, and vast stretches of land used for growing food. Everything seemed organized yet somehow chaotic compared to other civilized planets. At the reserve entrance, a human ranger greeted them. She wore green clothing and had a badge that identified her as Ranger Paula. Welcome to Rocky Plains Nature Reserve, she said. We're thrilled to host visitors from beyond our solar system. The main trail is 3 miles long and should take about 2 hours at a leisurely pace. Trazik's environmental suit whirred as it analyzed the air. My sensors detect 47 different airborne particles that are not in our database. Probably pollen, said Paula. It's spring, so many plants are reproducing. Plants reproduce through the air you breathe, asked Meepo, immediately taking samples with his research equipment. The trail began through what the humans called a forest. Tall plants, trees, reached toward the sky, their branches covered in green growths. Smaller plants lined the path. Tiny flying creatures moved among them. Those are insects and birds, Daniel explained before anyone could ask. They're harmless. Krelax moved slowly, his crystalline form struggling under Earth's gravity despite his shield. The others also showed signs of strain. Only Meepo seemed energetic, his amphibious form better suited to Earth's conditions. How far have we walked? Asked Vorna after what felt like hours. About half a mile, said Olivia, checking her device. Are you tired already? The alien students looked at each other in dismay. Humans considered this leisurely. They stopped at a viewing platform overlooking a valley. Water cut through the land in what Paula called a river. Animals moved in the distance. Large four-legged creatures that humans raised for food. The diversity of life on your planet is overwhelming, said Phyla. On most worlds you find perhaps a dozen major species adapting to different niches. Here, you have millions coexisting. That's what makes Earth special, said Daniel. The constant competition and cooperation pushed evolution in countless directions. As they continued, walking, dark clouds gathered overhead. The students had been briefed about Earth's weather patterns, but seeing the sky change color still alarmed them. Should we seek shelter? Asked Duran, whose silicon-based body feared water the most. It's just a spring shower, said Paula, though. She quickened their pace toward a covered rest area. The rain began suddenly, water falling from the sky in quantities that seemed impossible to the alien visitors. They rushed under the shelter, watching in amazement as the humans merely put on thin water-resistant coverings. You live with water randomly falling from above, said Krelax, his voice filled with wonder and horror. How do you manage such unpredictability? Daniel smiled. You adapt. Humans have always been good at that. As they waited out the rain, a small furry animal approached the shelter. The students tensed, but Paula identified it as a squirrel, a harmless creature that lived among the trees. Even your small life forms show no fear, observed Trazik. On most worlds, smaller creatures flee from larger ones instinctively. Earth's animals have learned which species are threats and which aren't, explained Olivia. Many have adapted to live alongside humans. When the rain stopped, they continued their walk. The path now had small puddles and mud that made walking difficult for some of the students. Duran particularly struggled, leaving deep impressions in the softened ground. The earth itself changes consistency with water, he noted with scientific interest despite his discomfort. Near the end of the trail, they encountered a human family, 2 adults and 3 small humans that Olivia identified as children. The children ran ahead on the path, climbing over rocks and pointing excitedly at birds. "Your young seem particularly adapted to this environment," said Meepo, watching the children scramble up a small hill that had exhausted the alien students. "Kids have endless energy," said Daniel, "and they're naturally curious about everything." "They show no fear," noted Vorna. "Are they not aware of the dangers?" "They know enough to be careful," said Olivia, "but we try not to frighten them unnecessarily. Learning to assess risk is part of growing up human." As they completed the trail and returned to their transport, the alien students were quiet, each processing what they had seen. A simple walk that humans considered relaxing had been physically demanding and mentally overwhelming for them. Back at the embassy, they gathered to share their observations. "Humans have normalized living in conditions that would be emergency situations on other worlds," said Krelax. "Random water from the sky, gravity that crushes, oxygen everywhere, and they call this leisure. Their children play in these conditions," added Vorna. "They're training for survival from birth without even realizing it." Meepo reviewed his data. The biological diversity alone would overwhelm most planetary ecosystems. Yet here, it's all in balance. A dangerous, complex balance that humans navigate daily. "Tomorrow," said Daniel, entering the room, "we're going to show you a human city. If you thought nature was interesting, wait until you see what we've built." The students exchanged nervous glances. If this was Earth at its most controlled and peaceful, what would a human city be like? The human city overwhelmed the alien students' senses. Tall buildings reached toward the sky, vehicles moved at alarming speeds, and countless humans walked in every direction. Noise filled the air. Machines running, humans talking, music playing from hidden speakers. Smells mixed together from food vendors, vehicle exhaust, and the humans themselves. "This is what we call a medium-sized city," said Olivia as their transport moved through the crowded streets. "About 2 million people live here." 2 million in one location? Vorna's scales shifted to a pattern of disbelief. "How do you handle resource distribution? Waste management? Social conflicts?" Daniel smiled. "Not always perfectly, but we manage. Humans are social creatures. We've evolved to live in groups." The transport stopped near a large open area that Olivia called a park. It seemed strange to the students that humans would preserve a small piece of nature in the middle of their artificial environment. "Today, we'll explore how humans create living spaces in challenging conditions," said Daniel. "You'll see our adaptations aren't just biological but technological and social." As they exited the transport, the noise hit them like a physical force. Krelax's crystalline form vibrated with the sound waves, causing him visible discomfort. "How do you think with so much input?" he asked, adjusting his shield to dampen the noise. "You tune it out after a while," said Olivia. "The human brain is good at filtering what's important from background noise." Their first stop was a tall building that humans called a skyscraper. The students looked up at the structure with concern. "What happens when the wind blows?" asked Trazik. "Or during one of your earth shakes?" "Earthquakes," Daniel corrected. "The buildings are designed to sway slightly. They have deep foundations and flexible materials. Most modern buildings can withstand quite strong earthquakes." Inside the building, they rode what humans called an elevator, a box that moved vertically at speeds that made several students uncomfortable. When the doors opened, they stood in a large room with glass walls showing the city spread out below them. "We are very high," said Duran, staying far from the windows. His heavy silicon form seemed particularly concerned about falling. "The 305th floor," confirmed Daniel. "From here you can see how humans have shaped their environment." The view was indeed remarkable. The city stretched in all directions, organized yet chaotic, planned yet growing organically. Rivers had been directed, hills flattened, and land reclaimed from water. "Your species does not adapt to the environment," observed Phyla. "You make the environment adapt to you." "Sometimes," agreed Olivia. "Though we're learning to work more with natural systems rather than against them." Their next stop was even more impressive, a massive underground transportation hub. Trains arrived and departed, carrying thousands of humans to different parts of the city. The students watched in amazement as humans moved efficiently through the complex system, most looking at small devices in their hands rather than where they were going. "They navigate without looking," said Meepo, his scientific curiosity fully engaged. "Is this a form of neural connection to your environment?" Daniel laughed. "No, just lots of practice. Humans are good at maintaining peripheral awareness while focusing on something else." The day continued with visits to other human achievements. A hospital where humans repaired damaged bodies, a university where they expanded their knowledge, and markets where they exchanged goods and services. At midday, they stopped at what Daniel called a food court, a place with many options for eating. The students observed humans consuming a bewildering variety of substances. "Your species eats both plants and animals?" asked Vorna, watching humans at nearby tables. "We're omnivores," explained Olivia. "It gave our ancestors an advantage. They could eat whatever was available." "And you share eating spaces despite having different food preferences," noted Phyla. "On my world, different feeding groups never mix." While the students consumed nutrition supplements designed for their biology, they watched human children playing in a designated area nearby. The young humans climbed structures, slid down inclines, and occasionally fell without serious injury. "Their resilience is remarkable," said Krellax. "On my world, a fall from that height would shatter a child's exoskeleton." After lunch, they visited a construction site where humans were building a new structure. Workers moved across narrow beams high above the ground, operated large machines, and handled dangerous tools with casual confidence. "Those humans are not wearing shields," noted Trazik, watching workers wielding tools that cut through metal and stone. "They have safety equipment," said Daniel, pointing to the helmets and harnesses. "But yes, construction work has risks. Many human jobs do." "You accept danger as part of daily life," said Duron. "This explains much about your species." As afternoon turned to evening, the city changed. Lights came on, turning the urban landscape into a dazzling display. The students were amazed by the humans' casual relationship with artificial light, another adaptation to their planet's natural cycle of light and darkness. They ended the day at a cultural center where humans gathered to watch others perform music. The sounds were complex and ordered, the vibrations carrying through the air and into the bodies of the listeners. "This is beautiful," said Krellax, whose crystalline form resonated pleasantly with the music. "Your species creates art from sound, waves. Music is universal for humans," said Olivia. "Every human culture develops it independently." "A communication system?" asked Meepo. "Sometimes," said Daniel, "but mostly it's for enjoyment. Humans create art in many forms: visual, auditory, through movement, through story." On the transport back to the embassy, the students were quieter than usual, processing everything they had seen. "Your species lives with constant danger," said Vorna finally. "Yet you seem to forget it exists. Is this a psychological adaptation?" Olivia considered this. "I wouldn't say we forget. We just accept it as normal. Humans are good at normalizing their circumstances, whatever they are." "That is perhaps your greatest strength," said Phyla. "What other species would consider extreme, you consider Tuesday." Back at the embassy, the students gathered to record their observations. Each had been affected differently by the human city. "Their technology compensates for their biological limitations," noted Trazik, "but they still challenge themselves unnecessarily." "They could make safer environments," agreed Duron. "Yet they choose to preserve elements of danger in their play, their sports, even their entertainment." Meepo reviewed his data. "I believe their cognitive adaptability is key. Humans can conceptualize threats without experiencing constant fear. They categorize dangers as acceptable or unacceptable rather than avoiding all risk." Later, as the alien students prepared for sleep, Olivia and Daniel met to discuss the next phase of the educational visit. "Tomorrow will really show them why Earth is classified as a death world," said Daniel. "The wilderness camping trip will be challenging for them. Do you think they're ready?" asked Olivia. They seemed overwhelmed by the city. They need to see humans in our natural environment, said Daniel. Not just how we've changed it, but how we live with what we can't change. Meanwhile, the alien students were having their own discussion. I don't understand how they do it, said Krelax. Living with such gravity, such dangers all around. They don't just survive here, said Meepo thoughtfully. They love this world. That's what makes them different. The wilderness camping trip began early the next morning. The alien students watched with growing concern as Olivia and Daniel loaded the transport vehicle with what they called essential supplies: shelter materials, food, water purification, tools, and emergency equipment. Are we going somewhere dangerous? Asked Krelax, his crystalline form vibrating slightly with anxiety. Not particularly, said Daniel, securing a large pack. This is just standard preparation for any outdoor overnight trip. We always plan for unexpected situations. You expect the unexpected, observed Phyla. A curious contradiction. The journey took 3 hours, moving away from human settlements into an area the humans called National Forest. Through the transport windows, the students watched as signs of civilization disappeared, replaced by endless trees, rugged terrain, and occasional glimpses of wildlife. When they finally stopped, they were completely surrounded by wilderness. No buildings, no roads, no artificial structures of any kind were visible. Where are the protective barriers? Asked Duran as they exited the vehicle. There aren't any, said Olivia. This is public land, preserved in its natural state. The students exchanged alarmed glances. Even with their personal shields being in completely uncontrolled earth terrain felt reckless. Daniel pointed to a narrow dirt path leading into the forest. We'll hike about 2 miles to our campsite. It's near a small lake with a clearing for tents. Hike? Repeated Vorna, her scales shifting to a worried pattern. Through untamed environment? It's a well-maintained trail, assured Olivia. Thousands of humans walk it every year. The hike proved challenging for the alien visitors. Earth's gravity made each step exhausting for Krelax. Vorna struggled with the humidity that made her scales uncomfortably slick. Trazik's environmental suit worked overtime to maintain balance as they navigated uneven terrain. Only Meepo seemed somewhat comfortable, his amphibious form better suited to the variety of conditions. Humans do this for enjoyment? Asked Duran, moving painfully slowly, over ground that sometimes gave way under his weight. Absolutely, said Daniel, walking easily despite carrying a heavy pack. Being in nature helps us reconnect with our evolutionary roots. They stopped several times to rest, or rather to allow the alien students to recover. During one break, they watched a human family pass them on the trail. 2 adults and 3 small children, all carrying packs and chatting happily. Even their young navigate this terrain without difficulty, noted Phyla. They are truly adapted to this world. When they finally reached the campsite, the students collapsed in exhaustion, while the humans immediately began setting up what they called tents, temporary shelters made of thin synthetic material. These will protect us during the night? Asked Krelax doubtfully, examining the flimsy-looking structure. From wind and rain, yes, said Olivia. They're quite effective. What about predators? Asked Vorna. Large predators generally avoid humans, explained Daniel. But we'll store our food properly and keep a small fire going. That's usually enough deterrent. As evening approached, Daniel demonstrated how to make fire, deliberately creating a controlled burn that fascinated and horrified the students in equal measure. You harness combustion casually, said Trazik, keeping his environmental suit well away from the flames. On most worlds, fire is considered an emergency, not a tool. Humans mastered fire very early in our development, said Olivia. It was probably our first major technology, the one that changed our evolutionary path. They sat around the fire as darkness fell, the alien students watching in wonder as the sky transformed. Without city lights, the stars appeared in numbers they hadn't seen since arriving on Earth. Your planet has remarkable visibility of the galaxy, said Meepo, recording the site with his research equipment. One of the reasons we preserve wilderness areas, said Daniel, to remember our place in the universe. The night brought new challenges. Earth's nocturnal creatures became active, filling the darkness with sounds that made the alien students tense with each unfamiliar cry or rustle. What was that? Asked Krelax after a particularly loud hooting sound. Just an owl, a flying predator that hunts small animals, said Olivia casually. Nothing to worry about. You sleep surrounded by hunting predators, said Vorna. How do you rest? Daniel smiled. You learn which sounds are concerning and which aren't. The human brain is good at filtering. As they prepared to sleep in their tents, a small harmless snake slithered through their campsite. The reaction was immediate and chaotic. Krelax froze completely, his crystalline form locking in place. Vorna hissed defensively, her scales flaring. Trazik's suit emitted warning signals. Duron tried to climb a nearby rock, causing it to crack under his weight. Only Meepo and Phyla remained relatively calm, though they moved quickly to higher ground. Daniel calmly picked up a stick and gently guided the snake away from the camp. It's just a garter snake, completely harmless to us. You touched a venomous creature? Gasped Trazik. Not all snakes are venomous, explained Olivia. And we know which ones are dangerous in this region. You categorize your planet's dangers, said Phyla, realizing something important. You don't fear the unknown. You study it until it becomes known. Daniel nodded. That's a good way to put it. Humans have always been curious, even about things that might hurt us. The night passed uncomfortably for most of the alien students. Earth's gravity pressed down on them as they lay on the ground. Unfamiliar sounds kept them alert. The temperature dropped more than they expected, forcing them to use the insulating materials the humans had provided. Morning brought new wonders and challenges. The humans showed them how to filter lake water to make it safe for drinking, a concept that shocked the students from worlds where all water was naturally pure. Your planet's water contains microorganisms that can harm you? Asked Meepo, fascinated by this new data point. Some water sources, yes, said Olivia. We've developed various ways to make it safe. As they were preparing a morning meal, the ground suddenly trembled beneath them. It lasted only a few seconds, but the alien students panicked. Ground instability, cried Duran, whose homeworld had solid, unchanging terrain. Just a small earthquake, said Daniel, continuing to prepare food. Maybe a 3 on the Richter scale. Nothing to worry about. Your planet's crust moves regularly, and you consider this normal? Asked Krelax, who had fallen over during the tremor. Plate tectonics shaped our world, explained Olivia. We've built our civilization knowing the ground occasionally moves. After the meal, they hiked to a nearby waterfall. The students watched, in amazement as the humans stood near the powerful rush of water, seemingly unafraid of its force. Water is both essential to your life and potentially deadly, observed Phyla. Like many aspects of your world, it is paradoxical. On their hike back to the campsite, dark clouds gathered overhead. The humans immediately picked up their pace. We should get back before the storm hits, said Daniel. Spring thunderstorms can be intense. Another danger you accept as routine, noted Trazik. The storm caught them just as they reached the campsite. Lightning flashed across the sky, followed by explosive thunder that resonated through the alien students' bodies. Rain poured down with shocking intensity. Inside their tents, protected from the worst of the storm, the students listened as Daniel explained lightning safety protocols with casual expertise, knowledge all humans apparently learned as children. Your species evolved on a planet that actively tries to kill you, said Vorna. No wonder you reached the stars. You had to become masters of survival just to live here. Watching the storm through the tent opening, Meepo had a revelation. I think I understand now. Earth isn't just a death world to you. It's home. You don't survive here despite the dangers. In some ways, you thrive because of them. Their final week on Earth brought the most dramatic lesson about why humans called this planet home. The alien students had just returned to the embassy from their camping trip, tired but with a new understanding of Earth's natural environment. They were looking forward to 2 days of rest before their final research activities. None of them expected what happened next. It began with a soft, steady beeping sound throughout the embassy. Olivia and Daniel immediately stopped their conversation and looked at each other with serious expressions. "Is that an alarm?" asked Krelax, his crystalline form tensing. "Earthquake warning system," said Daniel, already moving toward a computer. "Terminal. Looks like a big one about 80 miles offshore. Potential tsunami risk," added Olivia, checking her handheld device. "We have about 20 minutes. The alien students exchanged confused glances. The humans' calm efficiency seemed at odds with what sounded like a major emergency. "Should we return to our ship?" asked Vorna, her scales shifting to an anxious pattern. "No time," said Daniel. "Besides, the embassy is built to withstand both earthquakes and flooding. We'll follow standard protocols." What happened next amazed the alien observers. The humans activated an emergency system that seemed well-practiced and organized. Embassy staff moved through the building, securing loose items, checking safety equipment, and preparing emergency supplies. "How often does this happen?" asked Trazik, watching as humans calmly prepared for disaster. "Major earthquakes? Every few years in this region," said Olivia. "But we prepare for them monthly. Better safe than sorry." Outside the embassy windows, the students could see the human city responding. Warning sirens sounded. Vehicles moved in orderly lines away from coastal areas. People walked briskly but without panic toward higher ground or designated shelter buildings. "Your entire civilization is designed around potential disasters," observed Phyla. "Has to be," said Daniel. "Earth doesn't give us much choice." The embassy's communication system announced updates every few minutes. The earthquake had been measured at 7.8 on what humans called the Richter scale, apparently a significant event. The tsunami warning was confirmed. Higher ground areas were already accepting evacuees. 15 minutes later, they felt it. The ground moved beneath them in rolling waves. The embassy building swayed slightly but remained intact. Items rattled on shelves. A few pictures fell from walls. The alien students struggled to maintain balance. "This is terrifying," said Krelax, his voice vibrating with the same frequency as the building. "Actually, this is going well," said Daniel, standing in a doorway. "The building is responding exactly as designed." The shaking lasted for nearly a minute, an eternity for the alien visitors, but apparently a normal duration for Earth earthquakes. When it stopped, the humans immediately began checking for damage and accounting for everyone in the building. "Now, we prepare for the tsunami," said Olivia. "We're on high enough ground here, but we'll likely lose power as a precaution." Sure enough, moments later the main power shut off, replaced by what the humans called emergency generators. Outside, they could see parts of the city going dark. Through embassy windows facing the ocean, they watched as water receded from the shore, a sight that Olivia explained was the warning sign of the incoming wave. "Your ocean is retreating?" asked Duran in confusion. "Temporarily," explained Daniel. "The energy of the earthquake displaces water. It pulls back first, then returns with additional force. When the wave came, it was both more and less frightening than the alien students expected. Not a towering wall of water from human entertainment videos, but a relentless rising surge that pushed inland with unstoppable force. Water filled streets, surrounded buildings, and carried debris. The embassy, situated on higher ground, remained safe, but became an island in the midst of shallow flooding. "The damage appears extensive," said Meepo, recording the event with his scientific equipment. "Could be worse," said Olivia. "Early warning systems save lives. Buildings in tsunami zones are designed to let water flow through lower levels." What happened in the hours after the disaster impressed the alien students even more than the humans' preparation. Emergency response teams appeared everywhere, some in official vehicles, others just ordinary humans helping neighbors. Medical personnel treated the injured. Engineers assessed damage. Community centers opened to house displaced people. "Your species bands together in crisis," observed Phyla. "Despite your predator origins, you have strong cooperative instincts." "We'd never have survived Earth otherwise," said Daniel. The embassy became a coordination center for foreign nationals. The alien students watched humans work tirelessly to account for everyone, provide necessities, and begin the process of recovery. "This is why Earth is classified as a death world," said Vorna. "Not just because of the ongoing dangers, but because you've built your entire civilization expecting disaster, and always rebuilding after it," added Daniel. 3 days later, as they prepared to depart Earth, the alien students gathered to share their final research conclusions. The embassy had returned to normal operations, though the city outside was still recovering. "I came to study how humans survive on a death world," said Krelax. "But I've learned that humans don't just survive here. This harsh environment is the reason for their success." Meepo nodded. "Their biology evolved under constant pressure from multiple threats. Their minds developed to solve ever-changing problems. Even their social structures formed to improve survival odds. On my world, environmental stability allowed for specialized evolution," said Vorna. "But here, adaptation and flexibility became the specialized traits." Trazik's environmental suit hummed as he added his observation. "Humans assume threat as a baseline condition. They are never complacent, always expecting change. They've even turned their survival mechanisms into recreation," noted Duran. "Their sports and games simulate the very dangers that shaped them." Phyla, whose hive mind perspective offered unique insight, concluded, "What makes humans remarkable isn't that they survived Earth. It's that they love this world that tries to kill them. They don't just endure its dangers, they embrace the challenge." Olivia and Daniel joined them for the final meeting before departure. "We've prepared our report for Professor Zixtal," said Meepo. "Our recommendation is to reclassify Earth from Death World to Crucible World." "Crucible World?" asked Olivia. "A term from metallurgy," explained Meepo. "A vessel that transforms raw materials through stress and heat into something stronger. Earth is not merely deadly, it is transformative." As their ship prepared for departure, the alien students looked down at the blue planet beneath them. From orbit, Earth appeared deceptively peaceful, its dangers hidden beneath beautiful swirls of cloud and ocean. "Will you return?" asked Daniel. "At the airlock." "I will," said Meepo without hesitation. "There is much more to learn here." "I would like to study human music further," said Krelax. "It resonates with my crystalline structure in fascinating ways." The others expressed similar interest in return visits despite their initial fears. Earth had changed them too, in subtle ways. As their ship broke orbit, Professor Zixtal's tentacles darkened with interest while reading their preliminary report. The professor immediately transmitted a new classification to the Galactic Academy database. Earth, reclassified from Death World to Crucible World, a planet where extreme conditions have produced species of extraordinary resilience, adaptability, and potential. Status, subject of special research interest. Warning, challenging conditions for non-native species. Recommendation, send more students.